Okay, so I have a question for you. Do you get anxiety attacks? And if so, how often? Because I remember a time when I was getting them almost every single day. And I also remember a time when I didn't even realize that they were anxiety attacks. I met my first girlfriend when I was about 27, and that relationship, without a doubt, was extremely toxic. But it didn't really dawn on me just how toxic it was until about 3 months into the relationship. And after about a month into it, I started having anxiety attacks, but I didn't even realize that that's what was happening to me. I thought there was something really wrong with my body and that something needed fixing. It hadn't even dawned on me that it was because it was all caused by emotional anxiety and because of the way I was feeling. So what did I do? I decided that I had asthma, and I got myself an asthma inhaler. Yep, I'm telling you guys, no joke. Because you see, at that time, I had only just moved out of a toxic home, but still felt certain obligations towards that particular person. So my boundaries were very limited. And after that, I naturally walked straight into that toxic relationship straight after. Then, to add to that, I was working in a very toxic workplace for someone who I now believe to also be a narcissist, a covert narcissist. So, at this point, I had 3 people in my life with narcissistic qualities, and it was all happening at the same time. I'd have moments where I'd find myself in my girlfriend's tiny little bedroom, lying flat on the floor and trying so hard to breathe. And I still thought it was asthma, guys. Now, what I've not told you yet is that this was a time when I was actually having therapy. And I'd even switched therapists a few times by then because I was still searching for answers that I just still wasn't getting. And it wasn't until years later that I discovered why I wasn't getting those answers. Because you see, it took me years to find out about narcissism, and I was not aware of what narcissistic abuse or narcissistic qualities even were. And it seemed that neither did the therapists that I was seeing. Because the thing about narcissism is that it's really, really hard to understand from a book. Now, honestly, guys, I don't wish this experience onto anyone, so I'm kind of glad for them that they didn't recognize the behavior I was describing to them and that they hadn't experienced it themselves. But the fact is that if a person hasn't experienced it, then it can make it extremely challenging for them to fully understand it, let alone help someone else overcome it. And I honestly say the same about high sensitivity as well. If it's not something that a person has either experienced or if they've not been around someone for long enough to understand the trait, then it can make it really challenging to understand all dimensions of it, let alone help someone who's experiencing the challenges related to it. And the way I see this is that sensitivity is on a whole spectrum. And at one end, you have those who are highly sensitive, like me, and probably like yourself too. And then at the other end, you have those with no empathy at all. And that's where narcissistic people are usually placed. And then you have all of the non-HSPs, all of the non-highly sensitive people who float somewhere in between those 2 points. And as highly sensitive people, our experience of life can be so colorful and multifaceted. And because this is all that we've ever known our entire life, it can make it quite challenging for us to understand what it's like for a non-HSP to experience life. So what many of us, or most of us, do as a result is that we fall into the trap of either building expectations or a certain kind of hope that others will get the message that we're trying to transmit to them about what we're experiencing in response to their behavior. And when we realize that they're just not getting it, we start to try and analyze all of the reasons. Does that sound like you? Does that sound familiar? We start to analyze all the reasons, all the potential reasons, and all of their life's experience, all because it simply doesn't make sense to us. And why do we do this? First, because we have this natural curiosity and desire to understand others. But secondly, and this is the big one, it's often or usually because we think that by understanding their full experience of life, that it will somehow help us understand and figure out how we can deal with it all. Does that sound familiar? But guess what? In doing all of that, in trying to constantly try and understand them and understand their experience of life and thinking that it'll help us, in doing that, in focusing so much on trying to understand them or in trying to understand why they are behaving that way towards us, it only takes our attention away from ourselves. And that is where the real focus should be if you're really looking for answers. The more we look outside of ourselves, the more we unconsciously find ways to blame or point our fingers at others for what we are experiencing in response to their behavior. But all of the answers come from understanding our experience of a situation in response to external factors and focusing on what steps need to be taken in protection of our own energy and in order to allow ourselves to thrive. And just going back to that story I was telling you earlier about my own life's experience, I was experiencing toxicity from 3 directions all at the same time. And my lack of awareness meant that I searched for answers outside of myself. And I even went to the point of thinking, oh, there's got to be a medical reason why I'm having difficulty breathing, for example. Or that those people in my life needed to get what effect their behavior was having on me. When in reality, all along, I was the only one with the power to change my life and give myself a better life. I didn't have to be a victim, but I could instead choose to be a survivor and focus on me, on my negative patterns that needed to be broken through, and on growing my self-worth. I needed to do the deep inner work, and that's the only place that all of those answers that I was seeking could be found. But the thing is, guys, it's not that I wasn't trying, because I was getting help. And this is probably where you're at. Let me know if that's the case. Let me know in the comments or drop me a DM. Because I was trying. I was getting help. I saw about 4 therapists in the space of like 4 years. But it just turned out not to have been the right kind of help for me at that time. What I really needed was to overcome these things. What I really needed to overcome these things was someone who understood narcissism from a 3-dimensional perspective and someone who understood high sensitivity. And these pieces were essential for my healing and my need for validation of my experience and my understanding of what I was experiencing. And ultimately, I found those answers that I was looking for, and I found them in coaching. And within just a few months, and that's because coaching allowed me to search internally for those answers that I needed to move forward, because coaching is about taking you from the present moment to moving forward in your life. And that investment was honestly invaluable, and it literally saved my life, and that's why I believe in it so much. I struggled to find the answers alone for so long. I read endless books and I saw so many therapists, but the answers came to me within just months of discovering what coaching was. And I'm not undermining therapy at all. Those particular therapists were just not right for me as well. Having said that, I found value out of therapy, but what I needed at that point in my life was to figure out how to move forward and take action for myself, and that's what coaching enabled for me. And this was my experience, but it's also been the experience of all of my clients, because just like me, they had been through similar experiences, and the massive transformational shifts happened for them just like they did for me within just a matter of weeks as well. And if you've not experienced it yourself, then it might be quite difficult to wrap your head around it, especially if you've been on this search for answers your entire life, just like I had been. And that's exactly why I'm offering all of you a taster of what coaching can bring. And I'm doing that through this 1 week challenge. And that's the Step Into Your Empowered Self challenge, which is a week of intensive, deep inner work, a week of connections, and a week of life-changing breakthroughs. And I'll be teaching 5 masterclasses where I'll be teaching tools that ended up seriously saving my own life, guys. And these tools helped me transform my relationships. They helped me set better boundaries, and they helped me find joy in my life. And I'm offering one-to-one coaching with each person as well who takes part. And there'll even be lots of prizes to be won. And I'm offering all of that, guys, for just £29 right now for a limited time. So grab a ticket before the price goes up, because it goes up very, very soon. And you can check out more information and book your ticket at michellethemindsetcoach.com/challenge. All right, guys, I really cannot wait to see you there, and I can't wait to see what transformation it brings for you.